The Styles case. The name alone sent shivers down spines across England. Newspapers couldn't get enough of it. It was a story filled with secrets, lies, and a death shrouded in mystery. At the heart of it all was Styles Court, a grand estate holding more than its fair share of dark secrets. My name is Hastings, and I was a guest at Styles during that fateful summer. I had just returned from the Great War, wounded and weary. My friend, John Cavendish, invited me to recuperate at his family home, Styles Court. Little did I know that I was stepping into a web of intrigue that would change my life forever. John and I had been friends since our school days. He was a good man, though a bit too trusting for his own good. His family, however, was another matter entirely. They were a collection of eccentric and volatile personalities, each with their own secrets and motivations. Styles Court was an imposing manor house. It stood on vast grounds, surrounded by gardens and woodland. The house itself was a labyrinth of corridors and rooms, each with its own story to tell. I felt a strange sense of unease as soon as I arrived. The atmosphere was thick with tension, and the inhabitants of Styles seemed to be constantly watching each other. It was as if they were all actors in a play, but I didn't know the script. Adding to the complexity of the situation was John's stepmother, Emily Inglethorpe Cavendish. She was a wealthy widow who had married John's father several years prior. The marriage had caused quite a stir, as Emily was much younger than her husband. Emily was a beautiful woman, but there was something about her that I couldn't quite put my finger on. She was charming and charismatic, but I sensed a coldness beneath the surface. It was clear that she held a strong influence over her stepson, much to the displeasure of his siblings. The other residents of Styles were just as intriguing. There was Lawrence, John's younger brother, a brooding and resentful young man. Then there was Evelyn Howard, Emily's companion, a quiet and unassuming woman who seemed to be constantly nervous. Dr. Bauerstein, a brilliant but eccentric toxicologist, was a frequent visitor to Styles. He had a keen interest in Emily, which did not go unnoticed by the other residents. And then there was Alfred Inglethorpe, Emily's cousin, and a man with a shady past. He had only recently arrived at Styles, and his presence seemed to make everyone uncomfortable. As the days turned into nights, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss at Styles Court. There were whispers and hushed conversations, strange comings and goings at odd hours. I began to notice things that others seemed oblivious to: a misplaced book, a missing bottle of medicine, a fleeting expression on someone's face. The more I observed, the more I became convinced that something sinister was brewing. I couldn't help but feel that everyone at Styles had something to hide. One evening, during dinner, the tension in the air was palpable. Emily and John engaged in a heated argument, their voices rising in anger. Lawrence sat silently, his face a mask of resentment. Evelyn Howard seemed to shrink into her chair, her eyes darting nervously around the table. "You have no right to speak to me like that, John," Emily's voice echoed through the dining room. "I'm simply trying to understand why you're being so secretive," John retorted, his face flushed. The argument ended as abruptly as it had begun, but the damage was done. The fragile peace that had existed at Styles Court was shattered. The following days were eerily quiet. The arguments ceased, and a strange sense of calm settled over Styles Court. It was the calm before the storm. I knew that something terrible was about to happen, but I had no idea what it was. Then the unthinkable happened. Emily Inglethorpe was found dead in her bed. The cause of death appeared to be poisoning, but who could have done such a thing, and why? The Styles case had just begun, and I found myself drawn into its web of mystery and deceit. Everyone at Styles Court was a suspect, and I knew that the truth, whatever it may be, would be far more shocking than anyone could have imagined.